Matty, it's almost tradition now that we start with a quiz. So obviously we're playing Hull later today, and I'm going to take you back to December 1994. A miserable afternoon for me, as I got dumped by my then girlfriend from Hull in the morning. And then I went to watch Oxford lose 3-1 to the Tigers at Boothby Park in a freezing cold. But something unusual happened in this game. What was it? Don't tell me the answer if you know. I think I've got a feeling you might know, because I've got a feeling we've talked about this before and you might have been there.
I was at the game. And there couldn't have been many of us, to be perfectly honest. But I think I know what you're talking about. I'm always pretty certain I do. I just need to remember names now. But all right.
Extra point if you get the name. That's the easy part of the question. The more difficult part of the question is this. This wasn't the only time that unusual thing happened that season. In what other game did we also suffer this occurrence?
Wait a minute. Right, I think I've got the thing, but I'm not sure I can ever remember it happening again. All right. So,
It happened twice that season. I think it's the
wow,
only two times it's happened ever to us, I think.
wow. All right. So I've got half an hour, 45 minutes to think. All right, I'm on it.
You're on it. Good man.
The big man with a big goal on the big occasion.
Well, welcome to episode 6, which puts us level, would you believe, with Mark Harris's goal tally for the season. I can't personally believe we've reached these giddy heights already. Dan, any news this week?
We've had lots of lovely feedback, though, on the last episode with Andrew Dawson. But what we really wanted was lots of information on that song, You Are My Sunshine. We've had no information whatsoever sent in about it at all. So that's a bit of a shame. Hopefully, one of our future guests might be able to spill a few beans. If you do know somebody who is involved from Arthur Turner's Love Child, do let us know. Our email is youaremyoxford@gmail.com. Matt, should we talk about football?
Why not? Go on.
Did you watch the Norwich rearguard? I'm guessing you didn't go on a Friday night.
I didn't go, and I did watch it, but I think a lot of fans can relate. It was one of those situations where I had pre-arranged plans. I was at a gathering, shall we say, with friends. So it's one of those where I had to listen to the pre-match build-up while travelling, listening to Jerome and all the build-up, and then go onto my Sky app. And on the tube, I was in London, watched the first 15 minutes on the tube, then arrive at my destination and kind of sneak to the toilet and watch 5 minutes when I could, and also just have my phone like that very annoying person is when they're trying to have a conversation with. So I watched it, but I wouldn't say I was across every little nuance of the game. But from what I saw, really, really great battling point. Coming, one of my favourite players of the season, solid as ever. Generally, I thought we looked really solid. I mean, it was just a fantastic kind of away display. And one thing I did watch over and over again was Sparky's finish, which it was just a lovely, lovely thing to see.
We've mentioned many times before, you were a striker in the past. So when you get a chance like that, where you just don't have to think about it, you just react, is that the perfect way to end the goal drought?
I love the way I'm getting a second coming as like a football, goal scoring don. But which
you are the Alan Shearer of our podcast.
Anyone who listened to the first 6 episodes of this pod will probably be thinking that I'm about third on the all-time Premier League goal scoring list. But your questions about when chances fall like that, I mean, as a striker, that's why you are a striker, because you have that instinct, and I think when a little window opens, you know exactly what to do. And I think if anyone you would have wanted in that position was Mark Harris. If you put like a centre back, I know we've spoken a lot about our defence are really good at kind of finding the net, but in that situation, that was a striker's finish. That was just instinct. That was just turn and shoot. I know where everything is. Everything stops in time, and you know exactly what to do. So Sparky was the man, and it was just lovely to see him score one of those instinctive goals. And I think from my perspective, I was like, yes, that's why he's our number 9.
And we've come on to this idea before that Sparky is a streaky striker. Like he seems to get his goals in bursts. So let's hope that this is the start of something. I just think he looked better this game. And I think he's looked better since he's had Ole playing much closer to him. Do you think that helps? Do you think having like a second striker? Are
I
we going
mean,
back to 4-4-2? I guess I'm asking.
I'm old school. I as a striker, I always think it works much better with the two. Now I know, in modern football, it's very unfashionable. And obviously the whole Des regime was built on Harris being that focal point up front. I think when everything's going well, it's great. But like you say, if you go into a bit of a rut or a run, it's just such hard work. And we've seen Harris, who looks like he's carried the weight of the world on his shoulders some games. And I think just bringing Ole on and going, right, we're going to work. I might go deep for a bit, or when I get the ball, I'll look for you. Just suddenly, Sparky's like, oh my god, I've got a partner in crime. And I think strikers always look at that. Who's my kind of partner in crime that's going to look out for me, who's going to set me up, who I'm going to do running for and know that he'll be backing me up. It's those kind of things. Often you look at Sparky some games and he's closing down. He'll look over his shoulder and go, I've just done that on my own. So I think, there's certainly a spring in his step, should we say, Dan?
What I really was most pleased with, obviously it was backs to the wall, and I think we only had 3 shots in the entire game, but we did look a threat. There's that lovely cross, for instance, from Kieran Brown, who just gets better and better this season. There's hope that we're starting to look a slightly more kind of progressive team, I hope.
Can we? That was almost my favourite moment of the match. Kieran Brown pretty much got the ball, wrote on it, "Finish me," and sent it in for a cross. It was so beautiful. And I think actually, we spoke about Sparky. I think he just hasn't had enough of that in recent weeks. Almost wasn't expecting it. And Ollie's, maybe a bit on the back foot. I was actually cursing Ollie and Sparky at that moment because I thought that ball was so beautiful. And you're like, is there anything else that Kieran Brown can't do? The man can score, he can defend, he can overlap, and he can put in an absolute perler of a cross. But you're right. It was back against the wall, but we looked dangerous, and that was exciting.
And we're building, I guess, on the Coventry game, the game just before that. I said in my WhatsApp group before that game that I would almost settle for a defeat as long as we scored and started to look a threat again, because we've been so dire for 5 or 6 games before that. That kind of transpired. We scored twice. We, could have had a couple more. We did lose, but Coventry were on a really decent run before that. There's hope, isn't there? I guess.
Well, I think we spoke about it where it could go really bad very quickly here. And I think what everyone is just happy about in the last 2 games, we've just seen a little spark. We've seen chances created. We've seen us being on the front foot, and we've seen both strikers score, which is incredible. Because when we last recorded this, neither of us could see kind of where a goal was coming from, and that was like a real worry. But now we look like goals are returned. We've got 2 strikers, maybe just starting to hit form. Ole, I really like the guy. What are you making of him up front?
I just think he looks really good, to be honest with you. He just seems to really want the ball the whole time. He never ever seems to go missing. He's got a great touch on him. The way the ball sticks to him as well. It's a slight concern. He doesn't quite seem to have the legs to last fully the 90 minutes. But I hope that will come. But in every first half he's played for us, he's looked so good, and the ball just absolutely sticks to him when it's kind of punted upfield. And as you say, I think having someone else kind of up the field definitely seems to help Sparky as well. But again, I guess also the question is, can we afford to play 4-4-2 in this day and age? Because it's tricky. It's really
tough,
tricky.
Yeah, we've looked a much better team with him in recent weeks. So yeah, long may that continue.
I'm not going to talk too much about last night's fairly horrific results, because let's wait and see what happens tonight when we play Hull, and then we can kind of assess the whole situation. Looks like other teams, especially Derby and hopefully not Luton, are finding a little bit of form at the moment. I guess that just means we've got to look after ourselves, right? We've just got to literally just make sure we get points ourselves.
I think I don't know about you, but I spent most of the evening on the BBC Sport website refreshing whilst watching the latest drama with my wife. And it's a horrible place to
Clarify,
be in.
that's drama on TV, not at home.
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. But it's it's one of those where you're worrying so much about other people. But I think you just hit the nail on the head. We just need to do what we need to do now, and God, every football cliche is going to come out over the next few weeks. But yeah, it got to about 80 minutes, and I was like, can I just put my phone down now and stop worrying about thinking, about how good Derby are suddenly just turning their form and got the John Eustace bounce, and maybe they're going to have what we had with Rowett and all that. Can I just stop thinking about that because it's not helping?
And concentrate on White Lotus instead.
Exactly. White Lotus and Black Doves, yes.
Other interesting news to come out is that Ben Nelson is back in training. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Ben Nelson later on because somebody sent in a hot take on Ben Nelson. He did look great earlier on in the season. We looked a better team with him in the side. How, though, do we fit him into this current team if he does come back? Presumably, we do have to find a spot for him, or do we?
Yeah, I mean, well, first things first, absolutely fantastic news. I mean, personally, as a fan, loved watching him early in the season, and I'd almost just written him off in terms of he'll go back to Leicester, do his thing, and we'll probably never see him again. So the fact that he's now being talked about with training and now actually talking about coming back into the side is absolutely fantastic. I think you just hit the nail on the head. Where does he play? Because I guess you look at that area of the team and it's probably our strongest, and you think, who are you going to drop? And I know there's been a bit of change in formation over recent weeks to try and kind of make us more solid and maybe to fit a few players in as well. So, but you look at Moore, you look at Hellick, you look at Brown, who we've just spoken about. Who are you going to drop out of that three? It's tough, right? So you look at it. Brown is probably our player of the season. Moore's our skipper, and Hellick, without a doubt, is mid-table or up championship quality. So it's tough, but he's a very good player. So you definitely want to add him to the mix, as it were.
So I had two solutions to this. First of all, was to go full Ian Atkins and just play like 18 central defenders across the back, with him being one of them. Was it Atkins who had five? He played 5 central defenders in a row, didn't he? Pretty much Hatswell and like all sorts of weird people just swung a row of 5 across the back. So that was one option. I'm not convinced that's the right one. The other thought I had was, and I mentioned this earlier on in the season, because he's so good on the ball, Nelson, you could play him in that kind of John Stones midfield, the holding midfield role, which I still don't think we've totally nailed this season. What do you think about that, Matt?
Honestly, I'm not sure you've mentioned that to me before. I love that idea. The only issue is it might not be a quick fix. It might be something that you have to teach him a bit. And he's looked at John Stones. It's taken, obviously took a while for him to. But mate, I like that. The reason I like that is because I don't think I've seen a better player on the ball in recent or for a good few years. And he pings it nicely. Like he gets the ball and time seems to stop, which I guess leads us nicely into this week's hot take, Dan.
It does indeed. So yeah, Matt, we've had a hot take sent in by somebody we're going to call TP, who was too shy to come on air and tell us. So I'm just going to have to read this out. My hot take is that Ben Nelson will prove to be the best central defender ever to have played for Oxford United. I know over the years we've had Mark Wright, Matt Elliott, but in the few games that Nelson has played for us, I think I saw enough to make this claim. He's so comfortable on the ball. He steps out of defence so nicely. I think he's destined for the top, and we will look back fondly at his limited appearances for us. I also appreciate, with football being football, he might well end up playing for Solihull Moors reserves in a couple of seasons, and this could prove to be the worst take ever. Matty, what do you think of that hot take?
I love that final caveat because it's so true, and that's why we love football, right? But okay, I'm just gonna, we've obviously built a following on this pod, and it is ever growing. But I'm just going to remind people what I said in either the first or the second episode. I forget. There was a time, I forgot exactly what game it was, but I go to games or a lot of games with my daughter, And I nudged her about, quarter of the way through the game, and I said, "Have a look at that player over there. You see him?" I said, "You're watching a future England centre back there." And I must admit, there was a like sometimes when you just watch, obviously you're watching a game, but you just go, "I'm just going to watch this player for 5 minutes," and there's just something about him that I really like in terms of he's never worried on the ball. Like he gets the ball, and even in the tightest situation, he stays calm. He he's always looking. He's always looking to go forward. He's strong. He's solid. Still really good in the air. Seems to have a fantastic awareness around him. I'm going to say it. I think the guy's class, and I think he could go all the way. So this hot take, I'm all in for. I totally agree.
Did you send it in? Are you TP'd from London?
MGTP, yeah. It wasn't, but I might as well have written it. Also, the little nod to Solihull Moors, I mean, absolutely, yeah. That little non-league nod. So, yeah, but no, it wasn't me.
I must admit, I love it when people go really big on something like this because so often it turns out to be totally wrong as well. I'm struggling to think of an example of someone who I've predicted will reach the top and they've gone on to make the top. But I can think of lots of players who have just got it totally wrong, or who I've got it totally wrong on. The big one I was convinced was going to make it was Ross Weatherston, and I made the claim to my brother. I don't even remember the Reading game where we won 2-1 at their place. Matt Lowe scored that goal. I turned to my brother afterwards. I said, "That Ross Weatherston, he is destined for the very, very top." And the other one I picked was Luke Foster, who's had obviously a very interesting career since that point onwards. Matt, have you spotted anyone that you kind of predicted great things for and got it either right or wrong?
It's not like I got it so wrong because he had a great career. But I remember when Paul Powell first came through at Oxford, I was like, he is going to go to the very top. And obviously, you start to watch his career and go, see, everyone's agreeing with me. And I think he was linked to, was it Derby? Was it Jim Smith tried to sign him? Was it, or was it Forest?
West Brom, I think, tried to sign
Was it
him.
West Brom? Was it West Brom? I knew it was Midlands Club. And anyway, for one reason or another, that never quite worked out. But he was obviously a fantastic player. But I was like, England. So that, but one that's gone the other way, and it's not Oxford United link, but I think it's worth me mentioning because I got this properly wrong. I did call Harry Kane a one-season wonder.
Well, as you've proven many times, mate, you know all about being a striker, right?
Yeah.
So, if anyone knows these things, it's you. So how did that work out for you?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So those are the couple that kind of stand out for me. But yeah, no, I'm going to be watching Nelson's trajectory with interest.
I think we all are. So, Ben, if you are listening to this, please start your glittering career by coming into the team and keeping us endless clean sheets until the end of the season, and try and prove TP from London right.
Okay, well, it's that time of the week for our Nostalgia Corner. And this week, Dan, it's your turn. What game or thing do you want to tell us about?
I'm going to take you back, Matty, to the year 2000. I don't even remember this shirt.
You've got the shirt on, of course.
I've got the shirt on for the year 2000. Absolutely enormous, these shirts. You get so used to like modern day shirts, which are really snug fitting, but this one is like wearing...
I see that shirt and I either go Dean Windass or I go Nicky Banger.
Yeah, both of them had moved on, I think, by the year 2000.
Maybe or Christophe Remy.
I think he'd moved on also. It was a pretty...
Maybe it's the start of the season. Was it the start? I don't know. Maybe, anyway.
If I say the names of the players that year, you'll kind of understand the mess we were in. We had Steve Antrobus and Derek Lilly as our strikers.
Yeah.
We did have Paul Powell, who was pretty much our only hope. We had Matt Murphy, who was scoring lots of goals from midfield. But aside from that, there was very, very, very little. We couldn't attack, we couldn't defend, and we certainly didn't have much from midfield. So all in all, it was a pretty messy season. We'd just been relegated the season before, Matt, from the Championship, and it was 25 years ago, pretty much to the day when this happened, and we were looking like we were about to get relegated for the second consecutive time. We were really struggling. Now, I was friends at the time, still am friends, with a guy called Pete Cohen, who is a sports psychologist. At the time, he was relatively well known. His kind of career was just starting to really kind of take off. And I played cricket with him quite regularly, so I knew him well. And Oxford United were really struggling, as I said. So I contacted the club and I said, I've got a friend who's a sports psychologist. Would you mind, or would you be interested in Pete coming along and doing some work with the team? Like, I got the message through to Mick Brown, who was the club secretary at the time. And shortly after, I got a phone call from Dennis Smith, who said, that sounds amazing. If you can make it happen, that's brilliant. I said, have you got any money to pay for this? Because obviously, people don't normally do stuff for free. And he said, no, we're skint, which obviously the club really were at the time, totally and utterly skint. So I contacted Pete and I said, Pete, would you be interested in doing some stuff with Oxford United? And he was like doing a bit of sports psychology with various other teams at the time. And he said, yeah, sure. And he gave me his rates. And I said, slight problem, the club haven't got any money. Because I was doing the fanzine at the time, I said, I will get you as much publicity as I possibly can for this. And he said, Dan, I'll do it as a favour for you. So I contacted the club again and I set up for Pete and his colleague to go along and spend some time with the team. Now, they went along, I think they did it in the Old Manor Social Club. All the players were there, and Pete had asked me beforehand what the kind of key problems were. And the key problems were, at the time, we just couldn't score any goals. Something that you can kind of relate to now, I guess. They went along. They did their session. They concentrated especially on the strikers. Derek Lilly was our striker at the time. He was really struggling to find the net. They did their stuff. And the following Saturday, Matty, we played Bournemouth. And Derek Lilly had his best ever game for us. And we won 1-0. And that is 100% true. And we stayed up that season, Matt, by 1 point.
Stop it.
So I reckon genuinely it was down to me and obviously Pete that we managed to stay up that season. To verify all this, I absolutely promise 100% true. I looked it up in the Oxford Mail and there's a whole piece about it in the archive. And I've also had a chat with Pete, and I'm going to play the clip or two from Pete right now just to kind of prove this did all happen.
Well, I am still doing what I was doing all those years ago, but less work in the field of sport. I kind of had a golden period of working with the teams like Oxford. No, I was actually really lucky because first team I worked with was Cheltenham Town, then it was Oxford, then we did some stuff with Fulham, and then we did some stuff with Arsenal.
So, I mean, you were being a bit modest as well. You work with individual sports people as well?
Yeah, I worked with Ronnie O'Sullivan for 2 years, which was fantastic, 2002 to 2004, and he won the world title for the second time, but also worked with people like Sally Gunnell, Roger Black, kind of that golden era of British athletics. So, yeah, I loved all that stuff because just like you, I'm a big lover of sport.
So let's go back to whenever it was the spring of 2000. I remember literally asking you and begging you really to go and help my beloved Oxford United. And I mean, God love you, you did it totally as a favour. What do you remember about it?
Well, you asked me, and then I asked my friend Jonathan Zanaimer. So Jonathan Zanaimer is an accredited sports psychologist, whereas I studied sports psychology, but I'm not an accredited psychologist. So we both went down together, and we both went down again. We did this for nothing, and it was really interesting. What I remember is there was a lot of. I walked into the room. I remember where they all were, and there was a real kind of depression. There was a real kind of sadness, and we spent a bit of time just talking to a few players, and you could tell that there wasn't any synergy. It was almost like they had resigned themselves to the fact that they were already going to get relegated and there was no hope. So I remember we did a session. I think we did a couple of sessions, and everyone was much more receptive. And then after we did this session, they went out and practiced. And well, I think the rest is history, right? Because they beat Bournemouth. Was that right?
They beat Bournemouth 1-0 in the next game. And incredibly, our really shot-shy striker, a guy called Derek Lilly, who we'd signed for quite big money from Leeds, but basically just been the total flop for us. He had probably his best ever game, and he had 6 or 7 shots. If you go into the Oxford Mail archive, there's a little piece, and I'll probably add this in the edit. There's a little piece about he talks after the game about how he was inspired by these psychologists who came in, and he said he was inspired to have shots, and he had 7 shots, which is his most ever in a game, and one of them deflected in, but he said if I hadn't shot I wouldn't have scored.
Sometimes it doesn't take much to give people a different perspective, because ultimately I would imagine these guys were stressed, they were worried, they were anxious, and you could tell that there was people were there was no cohesion, which often happens when things are going wrong. People get into to a stress mode, they're not very creative, and we just kind of gave them a different perspective of where they were. And I suppose there is this kind of British mentality of when you push someone against a wall, that's often where that spirit of come out and come fighting, let's show them what we've got. So I enjoyed that, and I also enjoyed listening to Nigel Jemson. But I felt he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, I think, at that time around the situation that he was in. I think he felt he was better than the situation. And then, of course, there was Eddie Newton, who I think had come from Chelsea? It was his first game, or he came from another club, but he had formerly been at Chelsea, right? And I thought Dennis Smith was also a good manager. He was a real people's person. Yeah, it was a long time ago, and I wonder how many people actually remember it. Die-hard Oxford United supporters like you.
Well, the reason I think about it is because as a team, we are in a similar boat this season. We're kind of struggling. Our strikers are really struggling to find the net. So what advice would you give them now? If I could transport you into the dressing room with Gary Rowett and these highly paid championship players, what advice would you give them there?
Well, first off, give them a call, and we don't have to imagine this. I'll go down and do some sessions with them again if they want. But I suppose, what would I say? I'd say the hardest thing to do is to forget about winning and losing, just to focus on what we do and what we do well. And then I would actually get everyone to talk about when we're playing well, what is it that we do? What's actually going on? Just making this more conscious inside people's minds, and then say, look, it's not about winning or losing. It is actually about us getting lost in the process of what we do when we're doing well. And I know people might say that's a cliche, like back to basics. Well, it's actually the basics of what the team does when it's performing well. So I suppose I would throw that back to you. Currently, when Oxford are playing well, what is it that they're doing?
Well, for a while they were very, very, very organised. We got a new manager in around Christmas, a guy called Gary Rowett, who is kind of well known at this level for being a very kind of perfunctory, very organised manager who's very good at getting the best out of not very much. And for a while it worked absolutely brilliantly, but now we just seem a little bit negative in mindset, a little bit kind of stuck in this kind of defensive, negative, not going forward kind of way.
But it's like they're playing I would imagine they're playing in a kind of half-hearted spirit, not wanting to lose, frightened of failing, rather than, look, when we play well, we're incredibly organized. So I would actually encourage them to, look, this is what we do when we're not playing well. So you're asking them to detach and collectively take ownership of that process that's going on when things aren't going well, and say, look, if we are incredibly well organized, how are we thinking? How are we feeling? How are we performing? I mean, it's an easy thing to say, but I think if you don't stop and step back, the danger is you just keep doing what you've always done, and then you just carry on getting the same result. What do you think is going to happen this season?
You can't ask me that. It's a terribly tough thing to say. Looking at the table, we only need a couple of wins. A bit similar to when you came in 25 years ago. We just need a couple of wins. Like then as well, though, it's very difficult to see where those wins were going to come from. So, I mean, hopefully we can sneak a couple of wins, which will be just enough. And we are kind of relying, again, on teams below us not picking up points. And I hope that those teams are in such a negative mindset as well.
I'm crossing my fingers. I've actually got my legs crossed. It's all crossed, Dan, you know?
Here's hoping, Pete. Thank you ever so much. I really, really, really appreciate it. And thank you for doing what you did 25 years ago without being paid. Why did you do it without being paid?
Oh, I don't know. I love what I do, so sometimes I do things for nothing. But let's see if we can make it happen again. Put the call in. You never know.
Right, that is actually one of the most incredible stories I've ever heard, and I've got just two little follow ups.
Go on, go on.
One is more just a statement of wonderment, which is Dennis Smith called you.
He called me, yeah, 100%.
Well, that's amazing. And then also, my question I want to ask after all this, because you've told it fantastically and it's borne out. Did the club ever call you afterwards and say thank you? Did Dennis Smith ever give you a follow up call and say thank you? Yeah. Was there anything that came after it?
I can't remember, to be honest. I mean, this is 25 years ago, literally almost to the day. I can't remember. I don't think so. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I can't. I don't want to say they definitely didn't, but I don't think so. Certainly, it got mentioned in the press afterwards, which was the kind of key thing. So I remember on the Friday before the Oxford, the Oxford Mail does a big kind of pre-match section where they have lots more articles. Remember, they did a piece about it, and then I dug up in the archive. There's limited archive from the Oxford Mail. I dug up some archive of it, and Derek Lilly in the post-match interview, pays credit to what John Murray describes as the mind men who came in and helped the club. No, I don't think I did, but that's fine, right? I look back at that season. We stayed up by 1 point, and I like to think I played.
Incredible! You'll always have that, and presumably Pete got good PR out of it at the time, and
again now,
a successful sports psychologist.
He does all sorts of things. He's got a great podcast, which I'll put a link to in the bio. He does all sorts of
Dan's PRing of Pete continues to this very day.
He's a very, very nice bloke and a very funny bloke and an extremely good company, but a terrible cricketer, actually. So we always laughed at his sports psychology because he couldn't quite get it to work on himself.
Now, we asked a couple of episodes ago when was the last time we'd had such low-scoring strikers. Since then, both Ole and Sparky have rippled, thank God, and here's hoping they can continue to keep scoring between now and the end of the season. But we want to find out how likely this is. So I've asked our man in the stat kitchen, yes, it's our favourite time of the week, Theo, to crunch some numbers for us. Theo, give us some hope. What do the numbers tell us?
Well, I'll definitely try. I mean, Romney's come in. He's definitely had an impact in the last couple of games, in particular against Coventry. We finally got some shots on three, and Norwich. Obviously, he got one right in that first minute as well. So he is starting to have an impact. But when we look at the sort of wider team numbers, it's not much has changed from when we were finding it incredibly difficult to get anywhere near the opponent's goal. We're talking from Stoke City onwards in this stretch of defeats and draws. In terms of shots in that time period, if I just run through, it's just to show that things haven't actually stepped up or improved in the last couple of weeks. Stoke was 13 shots, Bristol City 20, where we enjoyed a bit more of the ball. Burnley 7, Derby 6, Portsmouth 10, West Brom 5, Coventry 10, and Norwich 3. So this kind of trend of diminishing efforts on goal certainly hasn't changed in the last couple of weeks, even though there's been a bit more positivity after the Coventry and Norwich games. And it just points, I guess, to a wider trend of us basically really struggling to get anywhere near the opponent's goal. As we touched on in the last episode, all of those, we had a bunch of statistics where we fall 23rd in terms of attacking output, only above Plymouth. And we take those kind of just shots on goal statistics where we come 23rd and look at the individual players just to see where our players rank. If you've got all of the Championship players, one after the other, ranked by the number of shots they have at goal, it's quite revealing to see what kind of team we've been over the course of this season. So right at the top of this list, you've got the kind of stars of the league: Borja Sainz, who scored a bunch of goals before Christmas, Daniel James, Finn Azaz, Gustavo Harmer, and then in seventh, because they're obviously all in the kind of the players who are playing in the top teams. Seventh, we've unfortunately got Josh Murphy, and it's painful, but also nice to see him doing well. But there are other teams at the bottom who have got players in these kind of top echelons of the shots table. Adebayo of Luton is in 13th, Callum Lang of Portsmouth 14th, Whitaker of Plymouth, or no longer of Plymouth, but was of Plymouth, is in 26th. Callum Robinson of Cardiff 28th. And I have to really, really scroll down this list before I see an Oxford United player. In fact, I start seeing defenders before I see. So Harrison Burrows, very attacking defender, but still a defender, 50th in the table for most shots. Tanganga of Millwall, 66th in this ranking of shots. Notice we still haven't got to an Oxford United player until finally we get to 71st. All of these stats are from FB Ref this time. 71st in the ranking of shots. We get Tyler Goodrum. It's our first appearance on the list. 78th, Shemi Placheta. 83rd, Cameron Brannigan. And 90th is Mark Harris. Ruben Rodriguez, 98th. So you can just see there are 70 players in this division who have had more shots than our top ranking player on this metric, and it just shows how much we're struggling to get near the goal. And it's difficult to know kind of where exactly to pin the blame for that one. It's like Mark Harris, as I said, when he come 90th, but someone's got to get him the ball, isn't it? And we seem to be just really struggling to get into that final third. It's been touched on how kind of non-progressive we are in moving the ball, especially in the last couple of months or so. And I think ultimately, when I look at this season, I'm looking at a back line who have adapted to the Championship really well, and we look solid, and we're looking like they can compete. And then when we're expected to do something with the ball, all statistics point to us being a very low quality Championship team who are really, really struggling.
Theo, you've got to give me some good news after giving me nothing but bad news for 5 minutes there.
I promise I did have a good hunt through those statistics to try and find something that was improving, but couldn't. So I've got one statistic where we have an attacking statistic where we have the highest ranked player, and that is goals per shot. And it is our superstar left back, Greg Lee, who is ranked higher than every other player in the Championship. He's got Callum Patterson of Sheffield Wednesday behind him, Alex Mower, Josh Maja, some of these big names in the Championship all fall behind Greg Lee. And actually, if we look at goals per shot on target, it's not that different really, but Kieran Brown sneaks into the top 3 as well. So our defenders doing the job in the attacking part of the pitch, which we probably already knew, to be honest, based on what we've seen over the last few months.
So that is statistical proof, if needed, that Greg Lee is the greatest player in the world.
He's the greatest player in the world, and we need to figure out how to get close to the goal in the rest of the season, and hopefully next season in the Championship.
Talking of greatest in the whole world, as the greatest statistician in the whole wide world, rumour reaches me that you are thinking of setting up your own Instagram page. Is this true?
The rumours are true, yeah. Gonna put that together this week, and we'll maybe clip up some of these stats, make some little infographic things to post on there, and hopefully point everyone towards this fantastic podcast a bit more.
Thank you so much. What should we look for on Instagram? What's it going to be called?
Hopefully Theo's Stats Kitchen, as long as no one's already got it, which seems unlikely, I would say.
Thanks so much, mate. Great seeing you.
Thank you.
Okay, Matt, it's quiz answers time. Firstly, Matt, I asked you right at the start of the episode, what happened in the game at Hull in 1994 that was extremely unusual? And the answer is?
Well, just to give a bit of context, I was there, so let me just paint a picture and set the scene. It was away at Hull. It was an open terrace. I think it was raining. It was cold and wet. I remember that, and we were trailing. And I think I've got all the details, but I think we were trailing 2-0, and then they brought on a substitute late on because they had a few players go injured, and they brought on their goalkeeper, whose name I think was Alan Fettis. And within a couple of minutes, I think he scored to make it 3-0. And did it end 3-1?
You're almost 100% right. Almost. It was 2-1 when he came on.
Oh, it was 2-1. Got
It
it.
was 2-1 when he came on. And
But he scored quickly after coming on, didn't he?
really quickly. Now, I was there also. I'd just been dumped by my girlfriend of the time that morning, who was from Hull. So I'd gone up to see her to kind of have a nice time with her. And then she ended up dumping me. So I went along to the game feeling absolutely miserable as anything. And I was actually at Hull Uni at the time. So I went to watch Hull City quite a lot that year. They're very much my second team. And I remember there was this kind of muffled announcement when this guy came on over the tannoy, and the new and they couldn't quite make out what was being said, but the whole crowd went wild when this guy came on, and I was like, that's really weird. And then obviously he scored like 2 minutes later, and obviously the crowd just went absolutely bonkers, people running on the pitch and all sorts. And I didn't know why they were overreacting quite so much. Right? It's only a goal. And then, of course, kind of worked it all out. And it was Alan Fettis, their goalkeeper, normally their starting goalie, who'd come on as an outfield substitute and scored. So, yes, the answer is there was a goalkeeper who scored that game. So, which I guess gives you a clue as to the second time this unusual thing happened.
Yeah, so the second part of the question is, I guess, what did that happen again that season? And I can't remember a specific moment or player, but I've just got this vague memory of a goalkeeper scoring directly from a goal kick. It's not that.
Incorrect. It's not
Okay.
that. No, that we didn't suffer that ignominy.
We didn't.
No,
Okay.
it was
I got it completely wrong.
Swansea's goalkeeper in the penultimate game of the season, a guy called Roger Freestone, took a penalty against us and scored. So we had two goalkeepers score against us in one season. He was wearing the number 1 shirt when he took it. I'll put some video footage over the top of it. Good penalty, actually. He whacks it right in the top corner, like Kevin Pressman style.
Yeah. So I didn't do too well on part 2. I'm just thinking we should probably be keeping tally of how I do over the course of the episodes. I think I'm probably at maximum 50%. Should we have a quick look ahead to what we got coming up? I mean, Hull, obviously, you must be going to that, what we call the Dan Curtis Derby.
It is the Dan Curtis Derby. Yes, I am going tonight. I've got some leave I need to use up before the end of the year. So I've taken a day's leave. I'm jumping on the train shortly after we record this. I might even be editing this on the train as I go up there. I'm meeting a few friends and I'm going to the KCOM or whatever it's called these days. I don't know what it's called anymore. I haven't been there since we lost 4-2 under Ian Atkins, whichever year that was, 2000 and something or other. A pretty miserable day where the wheels came off our season. It seems to be a place where we do go, the wheels always seem to fall off the season shortly after. So I'm really hoping that doesn't happen today. I think we've got wheels on at the moment anyway.
Yeah, and it's one of those where you look at it and go, that's somewhere where we want to be getting points. And obviously we talk about looking at teams around us. This is a team that's directly around us. So let's see what happens. Hopefully Jamie Cumming will be on the score sheet for us.
Let's hope so. Can you imagine? Although that would mean we're probably losing. It means we're probably losing, doesn't it? And going into the last minute for us to send. Yeah. So hopefully it doesn't. Maybe it takes a penalty. Maybe Cambrand's gone off.
Yeah.
And we're 2 or 3-0 up at the time. And Cummings goes, I'll have this. And he runs up. Roger Freestone style. Top corners it.
And then we've got Watford, right?
Got Watford. Neither of us are going to this one by the sounds of it.
No. So, speaking about earlier, I had an event I had to be at for the Friday game last week. This weekend, I've got a 50th, which I'm very much looking forward to. I was almost saying I can't get out, well, that's not right. I'm very much looking forward to, so won't be able to make the game. So I feel like a bit of a fair weather fan this week. But, it's another game that we're looking at. And hoping we get something out of. Definitely, obviously, it's a home game. It's possibly our easiest home game of the run-in, and Watford you can never really predict. So, looking over these two games, I would love to get 4 points.
I would love to get 4 points. What do you think we'll get, though?
2 points.
2 points. Is that enough? I wonder.
Not enough.
I can see 4 points. I'm going for 4 points, Matt. I am going to be optimistic. I can see us beating Watford. As you say, that I mean, they're a decent team, but their form isn't great at the moment. And it's just, hopefully they're already thinking about the beach. Hopefully. I'm going to go 4 points. I'm not going to be there either. I'm going to be on a plane to Indonesia. So hopefully going to hang out with our owners and scout some new players for us.
I hope you sorted that, mate. Put a call in, like Dennis Smith style. Put a call into the club.
Can you imagine? I'll give it a go. They're probably listening. They're probably already, as we discuss this, they're probably looking at my email, which is you are my Oxford.
Yeah, I'm sure they're listening. I'm sure we are growing. So thank you to everyone for listening. We'll be back soon next time, hopefully with some news of some goals and some points and some wins, Dan, and some more information on You Are My
Sunshine. Lovely stuff, everyone. Thanks so much for listening, and see you soon. Cheers, Matt.
Cheers.
The big man with a big goal on the big occasion.